an interconnected network of particles undulating in space to create a digital ocean. The perfect way to illustrate the World Wide Web, or a cool background. Welcome to Making. I'd seen this effect around and thought about how to create it. Unfortunately, when you see people asking on the forums, the answer usually comes back Plexus, which looks like a really sweet particle generator plugin. But if you don't have $250 lying around, it is possible to achieve the same thing with either a lot of work and some simple expressions, or with not much work in Video Copilot Element 3D. I'm going to cover both here. Chapter skipping is available. So here I am in After Effects with an HD comp, although that doesn't matter. The first thing I'm going to do is double click on the ellipse tool to make a shape with an ellipse. That's the easiest way I can think of to get to a perfectly centered shape, but let me know in the comments if you can do better. I'm sure you will. Expand the ellipse shape on the timeline until you can see the size property, and uncheck the infinity symbol and set the sizes down to 20. And it's up to you, but I deleted the stroke. And as I wanted each circle to be the same colour, I'm now going to drag the fill out of the shape so that it will eventually colour all the dots. And just make sure it is below the ellipse shape. Next, with the layer selected, go to Effect, Expression Controls, Slider Control. Hit enter and rename this to Frequency, and set it to about 0.1. We won't be getting near 100, so if you right click on the value and choose Edit, you can set a new maximum to say 0.5. This will be the number of times per second the dots will vibrate. And now add two more sliders. Name them X amplitude and Y amplitude, and set both to 50. Back on the timeline, hold the Alt key and click on the ellipse's position stopwatch, not the layers or the group's position. In the expressions area, X equals, wiggle, brackets, and use the pick whip to link to the frequency slider, comma, this comp with a capital C, dot width, times, and use the pick whip to link to the X amplitude slider, divided by 100. Close brackets, square brackets, 0, close squares, semicolon. I'm adapting the wiggle expression so that I can set the amount of horizontal wiggle as a percentage of the comp's width. Copy and paste this line, changing X to Y, and width to height, and the 0 to 1. And then on a new line, square brackets X, Y, close squares. This gives me control over the spread of the width separately to the spread of the height. Now make sure the shape is selected and go to Edit, Duplicate, or far easier, hold Ctrl and tap D. Select the Contents element and then use the pen tool and draw 2 points to make a line. This creates a new shape on the same layer called Shape 1. Drag this below the fill element. Then expand it and delete the Shape 1's fill. Then expand Path and holding Alt, click on the stopwatch. And now click on the tiny Expressions Library button and go to Path Property, Create Paths. We're going to have After Effects draw joins between our dots. So it all looks a little complex. Let's make it worse. Above the code that's in there, type var points equal square brackets, semicolon. We're creating a points array. On a new line, type for brackets var I equals 1, semicolon, I is less than, content, brackets, quotes, shape 1, close quotes, close brackets, dot, property index with a capital I, -1, semicolon, I++, close brackets, open curly brackets, points, square brackets, I-1, close square brackets, equals, and use the pick whip to link to the dot 1's position. Each dot is numbered, so now all we need to do is edit the bit in quotes, delete the number, and then after the quotes type +I, close curly brackets. All looks intimidating, but really we're just running through all the dots and their positions because now, in the Create Paths line, we're going to delete all this section. After the points equal, and after the double square brackets, and replacing that with our points array. So I've got 3 points going on, all linked up. Let's go back to one of the ellipses, hold Ctrl and tap D loads of times. And boom! That's it! A 2D grid all in After Effects with no plugins. You can't do 3D directly, but you could fake it with 3D layers. And just because I set the wiggle high doesn't mean you cannot arrange the dots into any shape you want and just have a smaller wiggle. And using the frequency slider, you can speed it up or slow it down, of course. And you can do cool things like add wiggle paths. You can't use wiggle transform, unfortunately, as the expression to draw the lines cannot read that. That's the free method down. What do you think? I mean, this is clearly the bit where I'm supposed to talk about liking and subscribing. And of course, getting merch. But we're not done yet. If you have Video Copilot's Element 3D, we can make a 3D version. In this comp, I have Element 3D on a layer, and I'll go into Scene Setup. I'll create a cube. Obviously I can use any shape here, including an imported model. Make it as big as you want, but I set mine to 30 by 10 by 30, so that I get a plane like a digital landscape. But I'll reduce the chamfer down to 0, and reduce the chamfer segments to 1. Now I'll go into the material preset, and double click on the glass wireframe material to add it to the cube. We're going to be using the distortion effects, which need more segments to bend than the default cube. So in the segments section, increase the X and Z amounts to about 30, and the Y to about 10. This really depends on the shape you're going for though. But now each one of these points can deform. And I want obvious shapes, so I'm also going to check the no smoothing box. Oh, and if you don't want blue lines, select the material and just change the colours. And leave the scene setup. Let's make a camera, which is layer, new camera, and move around until you can see the cube better. Okay. Now go back into the element layer, expand group 1, expand particle look, and expand deform, and then expand noise. Enable noise, set the type to 3D distortion, and the intensity to 10%. And then hold Alt and click on the evolution stopwatch and type time times 20. Now I can see the interior of the cube, but if you don't want that, go back into the scene setup, click on the wireframe glass material, and in the settings panel, scroll all the way to the bottom and uncheck the draw back faces option. This gives you a cleaner look. Now before we sort out the particle dots, let me just point out all the render settings like fog and depth of field. You can spend ages in here getting different looks. So while you're doing that, it's secret password time. If you're still watching, please comment Plexus Nexus below. This really makes my day, as it's a way of me connecting with you as an individual, and it's also really useful for my analytics so I can determine things like pacing better. Once you've done that, I know, how many calls to action can I squeeze in? When you're happy with the movement, you're ready to add the dots. Select the layer and go to Edit, Duplicate, or hold Ctrl and Tap D. Hit Enter and rename this layer to Dots. And then in this layer's elements output settings, polygon mode, choose Point Cloud. Solo the layer for a moment, and if I zoom in you can see tiny pixel dots. Up the point size to its maximum 8, and unsolo it. And of course, you can now mess with the glow, add an extra glow, set the colours to be different, and as long as you don't alter the distortion, you should be good to make loads of changes. But it's so easy to duplicate the layer and place any extra effects back on. But that's it! 2 completely different ways to create an interconnected field of particles. Which one do you prefer? If you came here looking for a solution, did you end up using it? If you did, post in the comments below, I'd love to see your finished work.